What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Crystal Chronicles podcast. It's Savage Drumming with my friend Nick.
Boo! You suck!
Oh my God, stop pointing at the window. With my friend Nick, talking about the podcast and everything that we think is going to happen, everything that we noticed over the last week, things that we've been playtesting with the new Opus 26, things that we've noticed and things that we'd like to talk about. It's actually going to be a pretty quick one today because there's nobody else here. Everybody else is pushing up daisies with Yuna. So let's just get right into it. Thank you for being a part of the podcast. Thank you for being a part of the journey. We're on episode 3. Episode 1 is almost at 100 views. If you guys could just help it get just a little bit further along the list, I would greatly appreciate it. Number 2, I don't want to say it flopped. It made about 20 views. I'm really happy with that. That's better than most of my other content. And you'd know that if you went to youtube.com/savage drumming. That'll probably bring you somewhere that it's not supposed to. But follow the channel, follow the streams, and you guys will see weekly content recorded every Thursday and at least uploaded on Sunday. Let's talk about tournaments. Nick noticed something. Nick noticed something this week, which is the week after the Yuna bans, and I'll give him a chance to talk about it.
Gonna quickly note that the Unibans aren't actually in effect. That's tomorrow, as of the 7th that we are recording. Yeah. But we're good. There was LQ in France. That's where it is. They had a really interesting random deck that I liked a lot. I don't know if I would say this deck is super good, but it was a fun little dark ice deck. With like Arc and Vegnaga and Xenos, Necron, Spiritus, all of those like quote unquote cope dark cards people like haven't really played to a whole lot of success. I think there's a chance that some of this does a little bit better in a post Uno world once the bans go in effect, but fun to see the representation. The rest of this tournament was like pretty standard affair. Had a couple Uno decks. Hilariously, neither one of them won. Haha. However, Refia did win, which is kind of the par for the course deck for Final Fantasy at this point. Saw some Mono Fire, Avalanche, Wally. Pretty standard list of meta decks here, except for that Dark Ice, which I thought was really cool. I'm excited for next week's events, because that's when the bans will actually be in effect, and we'll see what things look like in post Yuna and post Green Cecil, because that's gonna impact more than just Yuna.
I found it interesting, and there were only 10 participants in this tournament, and this dark crystal deck took 8th. So I'm not saying, and I agree with you a lot, I'm not saying that this deck is perfect. I'm not saying this deck is gonna top 32 out of 100 decks, but I'm very interested to see how this deck kind of this thought process kind of moves forward if somebody else is going to pick this up and run it, because it did make the top 8 on this. It got shown, right? We don't know if there was 2 other decks right afterwards that were also dark crystals. We don't know what place 9 and 10 showed, and it's one thing I do wish Materia Hunter would show us. I'd like to see all the deck lists, because I like to see what people are running, what's working, what isn't working. I can definitely see what's working because it made the list, but I can't see what didn't make the list. You know what I mean? So
I would just always encourage people to try out new stuff, especially now that we're about to get a whole new set. You never know what you can do with the deck in LQ. Basically, almost anything can win an LQ if it has the right pilot.
I'm going to go to my card of the week this week. We're going to talk about... Actually, Nick, can you say it? Because I have a fear now that I've made fun of people pronouncing names wrong. Can you say it? Is it Torgal?
Torgal.
Sweet. I would have nailed it.
If you played 16, you would know this. It's actually a voiced game. They say the name.
Well, am uncultured.
Absolute revelation.
The cost required to cast job icons and job dominant forwards can be paid with any CP of any element. Priming of these forwards can also be paid with any CP of any element. It's a 2-cost ice backup. If you guys are looking to prime, if you guys are looking to play a priming deck, if you guys are looking to do anything with priming, you can just play this card. You can literally play anything with Torgal. Icons and dominance, that's Clive Ifrit, that's Shiva, what is it, Jill Shiva? That's anything. You can play anything of any color as long as this is on the field. I don't know that priming is entirely like meta busting, game breaking, but they've introduced it. And they're seeing the popularity with Clive Ifrit. It would not surprise me if we continue to see a popularity in priming. And if we do, and we start seeing more and more priming, I think Torgal is going to become much, much more impactful when priming continues to take on. I think the idea that it can be paid with any CP of any element, this is the priming Leo. If Leo is to cost backups, making backups of any produced element of any color, as Torgal is to making sure you can prime anything or pay for icons and dominance with any color. I think they're like 1-to-1, and I think it's going to be that important to play this card if you're looking into priming. Nick?
Ice priming, like an ice priming deck with Clive Ifrit's been a decent deck for a little bit now. I think the new Clive adds a little bit of extra endgame oomph to that deck now, because you play ice priming. The Shiva doesn't matter so much for the new Clive, but being able to play the 3-cost Clive to have like a Bahamut, the Zeta Flare special or Ifrit special, and with the new Ifrit being a thing and having more cards to throw into special fodder for him, I think gives you a little bit more oomph in that deck, and I think it'll be more fun to play because of it, now that you have more options. Ice has gotten some new good stuff. I like the new Jill. It's a little bit conditional, but at any point in time, being able to tap an ice to break something that's dull off of something else from your list, like the 5 CP Charlotte's a good shout for that. I think the deck could be really fun to play, and I think they did a decent job adding some new support for that archetype. I kind of wish we got a little bit more, but I can't complain about anything that is going to go into more Ifrit specials.
Yeah, I don't think they're done with priming. I think it's still on its way. I think it's still young in its infancy, and it's going to continue to grow. And I think Torgal is going to be an integral. I really want to say Torgal, make some kind of pun there. Tool in that process. So I wanted to bring that up this week. I was looking back at some of the cards that I may have missed in my absence. There's some real characters.
So close. They came so close to giving you another option. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's Opus 26 new lightning backup. But it's missing the fact that you can pay to play your dominance with CP of any color. It's only says you can only prime with CP of any color, and that's not nowhere near as good as Torgal, as good as the best boy.
The bestest boy.
Vivian, that's the backup I'm thinking of.
Vivian saved me a whole lot of searching after the podcast.
Yeah, it's Vivian says the priming cost of characters you control can be paid with CP of any element, versus Torgal, who says you can pay for playing them with any CP. It's gotcha. Really good.
You know what else is really good? Your card of the week, i.e., your 2 cards of the week. I let the guests run the show. I let them run the show. Tell me about your cards this week, because I know you've been practicing a little bit. I know you've been playing around a little bit, and you're doing one of my favorite things. You're theory crafting with something new to see if you can break it. Talk to me about it.
So this is becoming kind of a contentious deck in the community, like as a whole now. But my card is, our cards is Lightning and Sarah from the new set. 3-cost Lightning says you can play a Cat 13, a character of 6 or less, onto the field dull and attacking, forming a party with Lightning, and it returns you to your hand at the end of turn. And Sarah is a absolute issue of a card that says when she enters or deals damage to her opponent, you can break a forward of cost 4 or less, and she has an action ability that will deal a point of damage to an opponent if there are 3 Cat 13 forwards, 3 or more Cat 13 forwards on the board, which would also trigger a break since she is dealing damage to the opponent. A forward that can come onto the board and immediately break 3 things and then also deal damage is unbelievably good. So good. In my opinion, I think Sarah might be the actual win con of that deck, with Lightning being more of the engine, especially if you're playing like the 4-cost Fire Caius, who gets you some like more permanent forwards on board for free, basically, because you play him onto the Lightning. Then he free plays you something like Zidane or Vanille or Noel to give you a pretty strong board, and you kind of eliminate some of the risk of him, since the other thing about Lightning is that the card you play off of her returns to your hand at the end of turn. And the big risk with that Caius is that if you break him, you have to select a forward to put in the break zone as well. I think that's why nobody played him as much until now. The fact that he can bounce back to hand at the end of turn off of the Lightning makes him incredibly valuable in this deck. I wasn't even playing him before, and when in my testing, and still that deck runs fantastically. I think with putting him in the deck, it's going to be like a whole gear shift faster and more stable, actually, to play.
There is a whole auto ability rundown, and I'll put it up on the stream, the video afterwards. If Lightning leaves the field, even temporarily, before the auto resolves, the forward will not be played. During the attack, if the forward is played, the played forward remains attacking. The forward to play is determined and played at resolution. It can be played and enter the field in the attacking state, even if the attack has restrictions such as not being able to attack. Which means, like, if you've got a Cat 13 forward that says cannot attack or block, you get to just supersede that because Lightning says it's attacking.
There's a 2-cost of Vanille that I believe it's 2-cost Vanille. Yeah, 2-cost Earth Vanille that does that. Has that stipulation, can attack or block.
The forward, once played, will not trigger attack-related autos, such as when this card attacks, the forward enters the attacking declaration, timing has been passed, has made an attack, such as it cannot declare further attacks. So, effects such as Lightning 19-138 and Laswell 16-042. There is a lot of contention, and I don't think you're wrong in this whatsoever. I think this is going to be a card to look out for. This, to me, will likely be the most aggro deck we will have moving forward. Turn 1 Lightning has haste. You're going to put something on the board in your hand, so you're going to dump 2. You dump 2 cards to pay for Lightning. Go to attack step. Swing in. Damage is going to resolve. You're going to get a replacement effect. You're going to deal 2 damage. Whatever card you dumped into the attacking, which was 6 or less category 13, is going to get back to your hand. And you're going to be able to do this nonstop. If somebody doesn't play a forward on the next turn, or if you play a forward that attacks immediately, like you set the tempo, right? So turn 1, you play Lightning, you deal 2 points of damage. Turn 2, now you have You play Sarah on the field. Sarah breaks the forward that they put on the field because they probably only put one. They probably did a backup and a forward to prevent themselves from taking 4 points damage. Now, Sarah's on the field. Enter and ETB effect breaks their forward. Swing in with lightning. Now you're at 4 points of damage. You've got 3 forwards on the field of category 13. Use Sarah's ability. Deal another point of damage. Now swing. Oh, you can't swing in with Sarah because she doesn't have haste. But you did 5 points of damage in 2 turns. This deck is going to be a major problem. And that's, don't get me wrong, that's kind of a god hand. And unfortunately, like, somebody else may not be able to answer fast enough. But if you have lightning, and if it's all cat 13s, if you have lightning in turn 1 and Sarah on turn 2, you're already looking at, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, you're already looking at 5 points of damage, staring at 5 points of damage turn 2.
That's not even like the best line you can get with that deck either. There's like other things you can do, like swing lightning, play Caius off of it, free play as a Dane, because Caius 3, it's any cost 3 or less character. You can free play off of him. So you can play as a Dane and get free damage off of him as well. He can't be blocked by 2 or 3 or less, I think. And then also he is a hand disruption for your opponent. So you know that Titan or that Amma or whatever you're afraid of for a future lightning swing in, he can get rid of for you. And then Caius goes away and he can do it again the next turn, and the next turn to play you Vanille, to dull to make them pay more to cancel an auto ability, or Noelle that can dull forwards after other forwards get broken, so Sarah come in and just free the playing field for you. Like, there's a lot of things you can do with this deck to make it go ham pretty fast. You don't need to depend on that one Sarah line at all. It's not even considered like the best line, and that is still really good for putting a clock on the opponent's gameplay.
A suboptimal play gets you 5 points of damage by turn 2. That's nuts.
And there's a ton of consistency built into this deck. With some people aren't running it, but you can run Elwyn to get you a Fang. Fang gets you lightning, reduces her cost, and you can play lightning to free play something. You can use Lumina, who's a lightning backup that searches you a cat 13 forward. The 3-cost Fire Vanille searches you Hope, Lightning, or Fang. You have the 4-cost Hope that can search you any cat 13 forward. Like, the amount of search in this deck is incredible, and it gives the deck a lot of consistency. The only issue with it, as far as I'm concerned, is the lack of breakzone recursion.
And I think you won't have that much issue because you're going to put the game on such a clock that you won't have to worry about it. There's
the game plan for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is Turbo Chaos 2.0 as far as I'm concerned. Like, this deck is going to make 13, which already has enough support, right? I'm sure if we looked up how many cards are in category 13, which I don't know that Materia Hunter will give us, but if
there's a ton,
there's a lot of cards in category 13. There's a lot of support in cat 13.
There's even cat 13 monsters you can play off with, things like the Windhope, which is some silly stuff I was testing with. Play free play the Windhope off of lightning, pay 1 or 2 to play I think it's a 1-cost wind monster Layak, and that could be a future answer to any dull freezing a mono ice player might want to do, or a Laswell entry might want to do. You can, I mean, I like that too, because you can use the wind CP to play the Emperor LB, which is like one of the best cards in the game in my opinion. Like, the amount of things you can do with this deck and the amount of support they have around it is incredible.
I mean, I'm just off the top of my head. Category 13, I'm looking at I'm pretty sure Noelle, the lightning fire, right? If you can choose him off the card you had mentioned earlier, put him on the field, deal 2,000 damage to 2 forwards, dull them. You can give him haste. Like, There's so much you can do. There's so much you can do in this. I thought I was ready for this conversation. I wasn't. This is nuts.
They're like, I think it's pretty premature to say that anyone playing this deck in any list is like the peak of its power. You know, it took like 4 months to see its peak build in Cat 4. And we're not even really sure. We can't say like 100% sure that was the peak build, but that was the best build we got to before her ban announcement. I'm sure Cat 13 will go through a bunch of iterations, and there's a pretty good chance we see some more support for it in the next set. Cool thing to note, that new Charlotte that people talk about, the water one coming out the next set, that stops like action abilities and things, is pretty easily dealt with by this deck. So many things that free break a 4-cost or less, and she is a 4-cost, particularly Sarah, just deals with that immediately.
Yeah.
So some of the big things that people are worried about in other decks, or that other decks want to play to be answers to things, Cat 13 doesn't necessarily care about, which is good. It's good that they have some answers to some of the newer problems we're going to be seeing in future sets. And I don't think we're even close to its best iteration yet.
I'm very interested to see how this turns out. It's I saw a couple people playing it the other day, testing it out with proxies, and I saw the timer on the, like, I saw metaphorically speaking, I saw the timer get set on the table. Turn 1, bam, there you go. There's 2 points of damage. Well, they didn't put out a forward. Now that's the suboptimal play, but they didn't put out a forward. Turn 2, bam, now you're at 4 points of damage, and they put something else on the field that has haste. Now you got 5 points. Like, you can close out a game super quickly if somebody bricks, if somebody can't puke out forwards fast enough, or if somebody can't do a lot of damage. Keep in mind, what I do like about this is that it's fair. Lightning is a fair card. And stop me at any time if you disagree. Lightning is a 3-cost that says when she does damage, it becomes 2 instead. But when she attacks, you may play 1 category. For the minute you go to do that, I'm out, dead, gone. The whole thing gone. She's a 3-cost 6K. And in a world where there's enough cards out there that are powerful at 9K, Lightning is fair. And I think that's the most important thing to take out of this. Lightning is fair. She's fast, she's angry, but she's fair.
I think these current iterations, I think there'll be a even faster one built in the future. But current iterations of this deck, I feel like, are sort of a tempo check for newer players. Like, kind of like in chess where you have the Scholar's Mate, 4 moves you win, that you can pull off on like newer players or someone who makes a egregious mistake. Lightning, this Cat 13 can be like that, where if someone doesn't find a way to deal with it in the first turn or two, you can just lose. Like if you're a Refia player or a Mono Earth player and your plan is to just set up your backups for the first 3 turns against Cat 13 and do nothing else, you're going to lose. You have to find ways to deal, and it's not just this deck that has that kind of tempo. There are other tempo decks like Knights where you have to find those answers, and this is I think Cat 13 is still weaker than Knights. There might be an iteration in the future that's like they can compete with it. It's a little bit faster in the opener than Knights is. Usually Knights is only like maximum Knights is winning turn 3, whereas it's possible for this deck to win turn 2, pretty much. If you're crazy, you dump your whole hand both turns, but it's possible for this deck to win turn 2. And if you stop it at all in those first 2 turns, by getting rid of the Lightning or the Caius maybe on a good timer, then you like stop their progress for a while. It takes a little while for it to get back going if you pitch too many cards in that first 2 turns of trying to end the game. That's like the give and take with this deck, is that you can win first 2 turns, but you got to be careful because if you get interrupted in that, it can take you much longer to build up than, say, a deck like Knights that can do things like play Corilla to free play more things, or Lena Special, or whatever. The lack of access to water is kind of a bummer for this deck, but then again, if it did have access to those kinds of cards, it would be just like unbelievably hard to stop. I think these colors are probably the best. Like Fire Lightning is probably the best, or I guess fairest version of this deck. I'm sure there'll be other splashes in there. Like you get splash in snow for hand advantage, or there's one that I considered 4-cost snow that stops your Cat 13 forwards from being, or it's just him and Lightning from being targeted by summons, which is kind of a, it's a thing you're going to run into a lot with Mono Earth, particularly because they can run Titan. These are the kinds of things you have to learn when you're playing this deck, and they can, it's just like a good training tool for newer players, I think, where if you run it into them and they can't stop you at turn 2, they see what can happen. But if you can, it gives them a lot more room to maneuver than something crazy like Knights.
Moving on to the next subject really quickly, I wanted to ask, I don't want to say it's a redaction, but I want to bring up something that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. And now that, and it's just, it's our hot takes for the week. Now that Yuna is gone, dead and gone, oh, now that she's out of the way, do you think we see dancers get played at all?
Probably not. It was such a good answer to that, that it kind of popped up in popularity and in like standings because so many people were trying to play the Cat 4 unit in particular recently, and it does pretty well against it. I think if Cat 13 becomes a big deal, like a really big deal, maybe Dancers is still good then, because it's the same problem. They can't. Almost all of Cat 13's abilities are targeting, and if Mykov's on board, get wrecked, nerd. I don't, however, there are ways around it. If the Dancers become big, people can slot in things like Susano and just laugh at them.
I think the same thing. I think Dancers kind of goes away. There was a small resurgence of them when Yuna was very popular. Those of you guys who don't know, there is a dancer, I think it's like Matoya, I think his name is, or something like that. And it basically says, job dancers you control can't be targeted by just anything. Like,
it's just, his name is Myakov, and it's just abilities.
That is it. It is abilities. That's why we have experts on the panel. But that being said, yeah, like I don't think cards like that are valuable outside of a Yuna meta anymore. So kind of wanted to get your thought about that, because I think it was 2 weeks ago we were talking about 2 weeks or last week that we were talking about dancers being a real possibility, a real problem, and seeing a spike of popularity, and now to see that Yuna's gone, I'd be very curious to see the price on TCG Player of the cards just kind of plummet.
The problem is, when Cat 4 was popular, or not banned, they didn't really run summons in that deck. Myakov folds the summons, and pretty much every other deck has space for some. Even Knights has things like Kushalane to deal with this guy. Now, you're probably not running 2 or 3 of them, so it's a little bit more difficult to get there. But you can Alma him too, in that list, in that Knights list. So he's not quite as like a game ender the way that he would have been against Cat 4 Yuna potentially. And things like Cat 13 are running Bahamut's, which will just delete this man. So any good deck running any kind of decent summon, Titan, Bahamut, Amma, Kushalane, if they get to draw any of those or have any of those in hand, this guy folds and then the whole deck falls apart.
I think I agree. I think I'm pretty much on the same page as it pertains to dancers. Dancers are jazzy, bangled out. As for anything
Just a little
else,
too fragile.
I think so too. As for anything else, is there any other thing you'd like to bring up? Anything you'd like to talk about before we hit the ending credits today?
I don't think so. I think I just want to say that I think it's going to be. I can't wait for the next couple of events to see where the meta starts to shake up and what lists people bring in the post-unit world. I'd say keep an eye out on that because the first, I think the first decks you see at a tournament are going to be, especially of newer things in Opus 26, are going to start to. I wouldn't say they will define the meta right away, but they will start to. If you want to get ahead of it, you got to keep your eye on that.
Absolutely. And I think the best places that you can keep an eye on that is going to be Materia Hunter over in their tournament sections. Keep an eye out on all their local qualifiers, LQs, Materia Cups, Nationals. You can keep an eye on all that stuff. You can also tune in here every single week as we talk about some tournament results. We talk about decks. We talk about deck sizes. Cringe. We do talk about. I got Nick to smile. Let's go.
Eyes of cringe.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us on the podcast. Nick, thank you for joining me, buddy.
Yep. Anytime.
Drive safe, drink plenty, stay hydrated. Thank you again to Materia Hunter. Thank you again for everybody else who's been around. Thank you guys to the podcast crew, editors, which we may have a new editor next week. So if you want to see some more content and whatnot, please feel free to hit us up. Let us know what you guys think, things we can change, things we can do differently. Drive safe, drink plenty, stay hydrated. And I'll see you guys in the next lobby. I just want to see how long you'd hold it for.